Hi, this is Michelle. I am working on the Bucilla Black Bear Bonfire stocking. This was released in 2007 and then again in 2016. You can see the date at the bottom of the kit. So this is the 2016 print that I'm working on, and I'm almost finished. I've got the front almost done. You can see that he doesn't have his stick, so I'm going to make that for you now with the marshmallows on it. And then the other part of his scarf isn't done. I'm going to show you how I do that. So I've already lined it, put the back on. So it's pretty much done. I just saved a few things just to show how I do them, just to maybe make it a little easier, because I see a lot of questions a lot of times about how to do this stick. And then my other thing was, a lot of times on the backs of the stockings, it's just the white back and it is the basic shape of the stocking. This one, the front of it outlined his hat on the back. But if it doesn't, like these scarf pieces, like this one, it's just the green part. In the kit, it doesn't come with a back. So I sort of did this one. I didn't do this one very nice because I was going to use it to show. So sometimes, if your back of your scarf looks like that and it's going to hang off, sometimes, you don't really want to see all those threads and everything back there. So I make a back for scarves, even if it's, on like the front. I'll make a back just because I think it makes it more sturdy, and it looks finished if someone were to flip it up. I like everything to look finished. So a lot of times when you make your kit, you have a lot of extra scrap felt left over. So I took some white from the back of the stocking because there's always a lot left over. So when I cut out the green, I also cut out a white piece, and I made them the same size, because when you go stitch this together, you don't want to already stitch on here and then cut a back, because sometimes it's smaller, like when you stitch the front and then you go to cut your back and it seems like it's too big, but it's not. It all fits together. So I made these the same size. And then this one has felt for the fringe, so you don't have to make cording. But how I do these pieces, I cut all the ink off. You don't want any ink showing. So sometimes you would think on this fringe, you just cut this slit, right? Well, if you cut the slit and you just cut that, you still have that ink. So I kind of do a V. So I cut on each side of the ink and kind of come together up there at the point. Because when you make these and you don't get all the ink off, a lot of times the eye will go right to those pieces that still have ink on them. And it's just not something you want to see. You want to see the stitching, you want to see the design. So I have my embroidery tweezers here. I got these at Hobby Lobby. They work really well when you're doing projects like this. So then I'll go back in after I've cut that V, go back in and just grab those pieces and get them off there. You probably just heard Lucille. She is the cat that has to be in here all the time with me. She has her own spot by the window. And I've closed my sewing room doors, so now she thinks she needs to go out. So then, fray check. Once I cut those pieces off, I dab just a little dot of fray check in there. And it really helps keep that fringe together. Just because sometimes, these get a little weak in here. And you don't want them to come apart later. So there's that. So I am going to now stitch the front to the back. So I'm just going to use white. So take my white piece. I'm going to use about an 18-inch piece because I don't need a whole 36-inch piece just to put this back on this scarf. And if you use a longer piece, it will just get tangled and just create a mess. I didn't want to make this video really long, but in order to show you a few tips on how to make things easier, it's going to have to be longer than I usually like. I tried to condense it down and there was just no way. So I'm using white. You could use the light green if you wanted. If you're really careful, you can stitch the white back to the green. Just small stitches close together, a whip stitch. And as I sew the front and back together, I've slipped that piece of felt fringe in between. I'm going to sew that up right in there. Make sure you get it so that dashed line is covered up. And just grab just the edge when you're whip stitching. See, because you can't even see that white. You just grab the edge. The fibers from the felt and the floss going through, they really do hold together. So you just need a little bit. And then I'm just going to attach this to the stocking where it goes. Not going all the way through, so I'm just going to applique it to the front. So applique, you see that a lot in the instructions. So there's an applique stitch. The applique stitch is a hidden stitch, and that is how you stitch your pieces together. You applique stitch, so you hide the stitch, kind of like how this is. But when you applique, you take smaller pieces and add them to bigger piece to make a picture. And you don't want your stitches to be seen. So when you applique, you don't go all the way through to the back. You can go all the way through the back, but I mean, sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it looks nice to go all the way to the back. But like now, if I were to go all the way to the back with this, it would be a problem because I would be going right through the stocking and then you couldn't open it. So you can see here where the little piece of the scarf is going to go. So I'm just going to take my white and with a few small stitches, I'm just going to grab underneath and then come up at the edge of the scarf and just grab a little bit. And I'm just going to do this just here at the top. I'm not going to attach the whole scarf because I think part of the 3D and the neat part of these kits is having those pieces that stick out. So got this together and then I'm just going to hide the knot. So like underneath, just make a little knot. You don't want that loop there. Sometimes you can stick your needle through that loop and pull it out. If not, just pull it, cut it, tuck it in if you can, do whatever. But if you have to cut it and you're afraid that it's going to come loose later, put a little dot of fray check on that knot and that'll hold it. And this dries clear. You just need a tiny little bit and it won't make a mess, just a tiny little bit. So see there, his scarf is attached. You can lift it up. And from the back, it's all white. Looks good. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you, after I let Lucille out, because she's acting a little crazy over here. She doesn't like to be confined. Okay, so we got the scarf on. Next is his little marshmallow stick. So that's right here. You attach it to his hand. So that's what I'm going to do when I'm done. I'm just going to attach it to his hand. So I've already cut out the first part of the stick. So this is the front. It's going to go like that. And to cut it out, I usually take my big scissors and I'll cut away as much of the big pieces that I can. That way, because things like this, they're kind of sometimes hard to cut out, especially when you've got a lot of extra felt around them. So I'll take my bigger scissors, cut that out, and then with my smaller, pointy, very sharp scissors, cut this off, cut the ink off. It's going to be very thin, but it's a stick, so you want it thin and you don't want those ink spots left on there. You don't want anything on the edge. So take your time, just inside the line, cut that all off. All right, so this one is done. And it is a thin piece, but what I like to do is, so I've got this one. You can kind of see this one is kind of stiff, and this one is not stiff, it's floppy, it flops around still. So here's what I do. I like to hold it with my embroidery tweezers because this kind of gets a little, it gets a little messy, but very lightly along the edges. I do this with any stick, like if you're doing a tree, if you're doing a snowman arm, especially on these marshmallow holders, just lightly along the edge, all the way around, put some fray check. You don't want a lot, you don't want to saturate it. You just want to get those edges because this really helps you when you're going to sew it together. Really holds it all together. So let this dry. Sometimes it takes, you know, a few minutes to dry. So while we let this dry, I'm just going to lay it down here, lay it flat, let it dry. So while we're doing that, I'm going to work on the marshmallows. So you take these little marshmallows, you outline stitch gray, and then you take brown, and that's where the little stick is popping out. So I've already did the 2 on here. They're very tiny, but with tiny little stitches, you can cover those lines. You could do the outline stitch like it's suggested, or you could do a back stitch. You could do 2 strands, but I think with 2 strands, it'd be kind of hard to make those tiny little stitches and get in there. And, you know, sometimes these little pieces with 2 strands, you kind of tear them up trying to get the needle in there. So 1 strand with tiny little stitches. I don't know, it just works better for me, but you know, whatever. I just kind of wanted to show how this is done and hopefully make it a little easier for those of you doing this, because sometimes people think these more detailed stockings, they shouldn't start off doing, like that's not for a beginner, but really there is no beginner. You just pick what you like and you can do it. Just take your time, go slow. So I've got my gray outline there. So a lot of times I do all the embroidery before I put the piece together. Sometimes it does work better to do the embroidery after. So now I've got 1 strand, it's about 12 inches long, of the dark brown. 2 strands for this. You're going to make like the little line for the stick to be poking out. So come up from the back, I wrap it around, then come right back through where my knot is, and I'm going to kind of like just go over it and make just a little loop there. You don't really see it, just a little stitch, just to kind of hold it in place, and then I can knot on the back. This kind of holds it in place. It's hard to, on the edge, you know, make that a nice straight little stitch. So there's that. So my marshmallows are done. And again, I'll cut away most everything I can with my big scissors, just to make it easier cutting these small pieces out. And this is very black ink, so you really want to make sure you get that off, especially of these little marshmallows. You don't want that on there because you will really be able to see it. So cut these off. So by the time I get these cut out, that stick will be ready to put together. So with that, a lot of times you can't stuff pieces. A lot of times they're just too thin to stuff. So if you can't stuff them, use a wire, a pipe cleaner, you know, whatever you can find. So I've got some pipe cleaners here. Here's a brown one. I thought for the stick, you know, use brown, makes sense. Then if any pokes out, it looks natural. It doesn't look like it doesn't belong. So what I've done is, like on this one, I cut all the fuzzy stuff off. And these are from another project. And they're going to be, I mean, I could use them in here. If this is all I had, I would use them in here. But I have this long one. So what I'm going to do, get some old scissors. Don't use your good ginger scissors on these wires. Big mistake. So trim it so it's, you know, that length. And then I will cut as much, this is messy. You're gonna wanna do this probably over the trash, or don't do this over your stocking or over your felt pieces, because this is a nasty mess. But go along the edge. You probably have to do this, you know, 2 or 3 times to get it all off. Cut as much of that off as you can get off, because basically you just want this wire, but I am out of the floral wire that I usually use, so I'm just going to cut all the fuzzy off. So I got most of it off. Good enough. Get it out of here. Okay, so now your stick. You need 1 strand of the, it's 975. That's the same color as the felt. So make your knot at the end. I've got about an 18-inch piece here. And you're going to take the back of the stick, lay your pipe cleaner in there. If it's a little bit long, trim it or just bend it up there so you don't have that pokey part hanging out there. All right, so now with that fray check, it's dry by now because, you know, we didn't saturate it, so it's dry by now. And it does make it a lot easier to deal with. So hide your knot on the inside, and I laid the pipe cleaner in there, and I'm going to stitch it up in between the front and the back. This is easier if you stitch or start stitching and then try to insert that pipe cleaner in there, chances are you are going to rip your stitches, and then you're gonna have to go back and do it again. So I insert the pipe cleaner as I go, holding it and stitching small stitches. This takes some time. It takes a lot of time, but it's really worth it when you're done because it does look so good. So you're just catching just the edge of the front and the back. And having that fray check on there makes this so much easier because this felt is pretty stiff, but it's not so stiff that you can't get your needle through it. I am using the smaller needle that comes with the kit, just because it is tiny, easier to work with. So this does take some time. As you can see, the pipe cleaner is like coming out the other side, but when I go down, the other side will be easier to push it in. but it's, you know, it's catching in there in some spots. But these are a bit of a challenge, especially if you have trouble holding things. I don't know, you might try holding it with tweezers. That might work too. So I'm going to post this video on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram and my Facebook page. Instagram and Facebook is Michelle's Bucilla Creations. You can see it there. And then on YouTube, I have a lot of videos on YouTube that I've made for the past few years. You can search my name, Michelle Wood, and then if you're looking for, like, I'll label this one Bucilla Black Bear Bonfire. So you could always you could search, you know, Bucilla Black Bear Bonfire. You might find my video, or if anyone else has made a video, you can watch theirs too. It's good to watch. Now don't just watch videos from one person. Watch videos from a bunch of people. I mean, there's quite a few people who make Bucilla videos. You never know what you'll learn from someone else. I mean, someone else might do something differently than I do, and it might make more sense, or it might be easier than what I do. I just, I make these a lot, and a lot of people always ask, you know, how do you do this? Or what, you know, what do you do? So that's why I make videos, not because I think I'm right, or this is the way you should do it. It's just because I do them a lot and a lot of people ask. So rather than type out all these answers, a lot of times I just make a video. So, and these things happen when your needle comes unthreaded, especially doing tiny little things like this. And then sometimes they don't want to cooperate. So I'm slowly getting this one. Yeah, and I'm not gonna put pipe cleaners in the tiny little twig parts here. As you can see, I've just done it straight up the middle. Because basically you want it to, like, where the little bear's holding you, you want it to straight, you know, come out from there. You could always tack it down when you get the marshmallows on too, on these little branches, but really it's stiff. It's not going to go anywhere. So you can just stitch these little branches together and kind of follow the curve of the stick as you go. It's a good thing about using this wire. And if it does pop out anywhere, it's brown, so it's okay. But really, you know, use whatever you have and then just hide it well. It's okay if it gets twisty, it's a stick. So I've spent about 23 hours on this Black Bear Bonfire right now. And I'll have it done here in the next hour or so. I did something really cute on the back. I don't know if you saw it when I was flipping it around or not, but a lot of times on the back now, I used to just put the date. Now I'll take a little something from the front and add it on the back, just for something fun. People really like the extra that I do. I make a lot of what I make for people. They ask me, send me a kit, and I'll put it together for them. But I like to do little extra things sometimes. Just whatever. I try to do something different every time. I don't always try to do the same thing. And that's what I like about the Bucilla kits. You know, the designers make you this really cute picture on the front to make. And then you can really add so many different things to the front or the back, or, you know, add lining, decorate the hang tab. You can do so many things to make it fun for the person who's getting it. So I'm just about done with this stick, and I'm just about out of this dark brown floss here. So I'm going to knot it off, cut it, get another piece here real quick. Again, I'm sorry this one is so long. I don't like making them long because I feel like when I'm sewing, I just want to get to what I'm doing. And I don't like to ramble. But some things just take more time. So get this one threaded, maybe. And I usually generally just work with one needle. Sometimes for video purposes, I'll string up a couple, but so hide your knot on the inside. Tuck it in best you can so that's not sticking out there. And this is almost finished. Sometimes you gotta use your tweezers to get the wire in there. But it's going pretty well. If you left the fuzz on, it would have you would have had a fuzzy stick. I guess that would have been okay, but I don't know. I cut it off. I think it looks better, especially for this. If it would have been a thicker piece, no big deal. Just leave all that fuzz on there. All right, so this is almost done. Straighten it out a bit. And next, you can add the marshmallows. And that wire is just going right into place. All right. I'm so sorry. This is like 27 minutes long. I'm so sorry. If you want to get back to sewing, just turn it off. You can watch it later. You'll see it when it's all finished. I'm so sorry. Okay, so this is all finished. Make a little knot, cut off the extra. And so you have your stick. Now for the little marshmallows. So the little marshmallows do not need any stuffing. You're just going to take the front, take the back. The instructions do tell you to stitch the front of the marshmallow to the back of the marshmallow and leave the bottom of the marshmallow open and then insert it, insert the stick inside. I do it a little bit differently just because it's easier for me. Again, whatever's easier. Boy, these needles today. Maybe it's me. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's only 3 marshmallows on this one. So you see the little line where they go. It's kind of beat up pretty bad because I've been stitching it and twisting it. So I got the front, lay the front on, and put your back on. And then I will stitch one strand, 18 inches. I will stitch this marshmallow right together, right on the stick. Hide your knot on the inside. So like between the 2 layers of the white felt, hide your knot in there, tuck the tail in if it's sticking out. Get out of there. So hold this right on the end of your little stick in that spot. As you can see, it's kind of puffed up, you know, as if there were stuffing in there because of that stick. If you wanted them more plump, you could always take a little, cut a piece of felt, you know, the same size. I do that a lot of times with little pieces, especially like if you're doing a little, like an ornament on the tree and it says to stuff it. Sometimes you can't get stuffing that small, even if you squish it between your fingers. So I will just cut a little piece of felt that's the same size and use that. So make a little knot. I'll do the last two and then I'll attach this just to show. I mean, I've kept you here this long. So again, hide the knot in there. It really is fun to make these little pieces that are so, you know, so intricate and so much detail. It is really fun. I mean, you could substitute it, I guess, and buy an embellishment or something if you really want to. I don't know. I think part of the fun of making these kits is doing all the stitches and all the little pieces, and I never want to take anything away from the design. I always like to add to it if possible. But really, if you just really dread making like these sticks or a part, you can't go wrong substituting. I mean, it's your art. You can really make these however you want. No one's gonna come get you for it. And it's fun to see on the Facebook pages what people do and how they put these together. If you're watching this video and you're new to making Bucilla kits, there are some really great Facebook pages that you should join. There's a lot of people on them. You can learn stuff and share your own ideas. One is the official Bucilla group. That is a plaid page, Plaid Crafts. They make the Bucilla kits. They have a Facebook page that you can join on Facebook. And then also there's Bucilla Stocking Crafting, and I and Janie and Rachel are administrators on that page, and all three of us, we'd love to have you join that page too. So official Bucilla group or Bucilla Stocking Crafting on Facebook. And if you sew all along and you just didn't think that there was a Facebook page, well, you should join too. There are some amazing stitchers on there with so many great ideas, and it's fun. All right, so cut this off. So we are ready to attach this marshmallow stick to the stocking. And I have my 975 brown, just one strand of that again. And I made quite a mess over here. So it's just a small piece. It's probably like a 12-inch piece. It's just a piece that I had left over. I save a lot of the little pieces because you never know if you're just going to need a tiny little piece, you know. Okay, so we're going to attach this to the bear. Again, I'm just going to attach this to his arm, or his hand, I guess. See right there? Well, that's not really attached to his arm. Maybe his arm came undone. Who knows? But it's just going to go. It's just going to go right there. So I'm just going to attach it right here. So it's going to look like it's going into the fire there. So I have brown. I'm going to come up from the back. I'm going to do a few stitches into, I don't know if you can see this, into his little hand here. And you could have used black. I'm going to go right back in the same hole that I came through. On the underside, you know, nobody's really going to see that. But on the top, you don't want brown stitches. Like I said, you could use black, but I'm using brown just because it was brown. And that's what I had right here. So if you go in the same hole, no one's going to see that anyway. So give it a few stitches to hold it there. If you want, you could tack this down to the fire as well. Just a few small stitches on the top. Just so, you know, later it doesn't catch on anything or, you know, whatever. Let me see. I got a little piece of gold here. So I'll just take a little piece of gold and I'll attach that to the fire right now to show you. I mean, you got to think of all these little things because you never know who's going to get the stocking. And if it's a little kid, they may pull on it. And then if it comes off, that's not going to be good. So a little bit of gold. So bend this down. You can grab like the top of the fire there. And just give it a little stitch or two there. And then give it a little knot. If you pull hard enough, you can just snap that and then nothing gets tangled. Okay, so my Black Bear Bonfire is completely done. And there's the marshmallow sticks. And the back is nice and clean. Everything is trimmed in white. Oh, and here's the little s'more I made. I just sort of looked at a picture of one online and just sort of made it. But then just stitched the date on there. But okay. Sorry, 37 minutes. Sorry it's so long, but I want to share a few tips on how I do that and what you do and really how easy it is. There you go. Have fun.